This video is brought to you by my two books, Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist and The Blues Guitar Bible. Want to learn about modes, harmony, scales, chord substitution and keys? Or maybe you're interested in supercharging your blues guitar rhythm and lead chops. Whatever you're interested in, I guarantee you will be hitting the fast lane to progress with either of these works. Both feature video demonstrations and tutorials, loads of tabs and jam tracks to play along with, and I promise you, everything is explained in crystal clear plain English. Check out the links in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. It is, I think, an observable facet of human nature that people who have a shared or common interest in any particular topic or pursuit will often go out of their way to find reasons to bicker with each other about the most trivial of things. I suppose the best satirising of this is in The Life of Brian, where Brian says, "Are you the Judean People's Front?" And of course we know how that scene goes. And the guitar community is as susceptible to this as any other, I suppose. So what I've done here is I've put together a little list of 5 things that guitar players absolutely love to bicker about, starting with
Relicing.
Yep, it is a divisive issue, isn't it? Do you want a guitar, a brand new guitar that looks brand new, or do you want a brand new guitar that looks like it's been buried in a peat bog for 40 years and then used as a welder's bench? I think probably my description of what relicing entails just there lets you know which side of the debate I'm on. I find it incredibly contrived and just not something that I have any interest in. You know, if it floats your boat, fair enough. But the question I would put is, you're at a gig, your band is playing a gig, and then a non-musician, or civilian as I call them, sees your incredibly beat-up looking vintage reissue Strat or Telly or whatever, and they say to you, "Bah, that's had a hard life, hasn't it? That's seen some action." What do? Do you construct some elaborate lie to give that kind of forged aging kind of look? Do you give that some sort of invented backstory? Or do you say to the individual, "No, actually I paid extra to have it look like that because I wanted something that looked a bit scruffy and beaten up"? That's the circle that I can't square. So I'm not into relicing, and I guess some people are, and the debate will rage on. With most of these things, it's like, I've said my piece, and I don't feel any need to get into a back and forth. That famous meme where the wife is saying to the husband, "Are you coming to bed, darling?" And he's typing away on the keyboard saying, "I can't, someone's wrong about something on the internet." Yeah, that's not for me, because, I just have other things to do with me time. But, I've said my piece on relicing. If you agree, or if you don't agree, well, that just goes to prove we're different, doesn't it? Next.
Digital versus analog.
Yeah, the word digital has kind of changed its sort of connotations. I remember in the 1980s, you could bump the price up of any piece of guitar-related gear by putting the word digital in front of it. Digital choruses cost more than analog choruses. Digital delays cost more than analog delays, and so on and so on. Now it's kind of flipped, hasn't it? People, "Oh yeah, it's got that digital artifact." That's the thing that you hear so often. I just plug into a real amp, me. I don't hold with all this digital stuff. And then they'll, maybe later on in a conversation, that person will tell you about what a fantastic gig they went to a couple of months ago, where some big name band was headlining a festival or something, and despite all of the Marshall cabs and stuff on stage, that band was probably playing through a Kemper or an Axe-Fx or something like that, with just dummy amps on stage because it looks cool as a backdrop. Personally, I don't have any skin in this game. I I've had great sounding tones out of things like Guitar Rig and Positive Grid Bias Amp, and many other forms of digital tone creation, and been very, very happy with them. And I've also had great tones out of my little Marshall DSL-1 combo, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, because it's a Marshall. So I don't really have any preference one way or another. At the moment, as you probably know, my main sort of guitar tone comes from, I guess, what is a hybrid of the two approaches. This lovely little thing here, the Blue Guitar Amp 1, I'm pretty sure, although I can't swear to it, that there's probably some digital shenanigans going on in that, as well as, there's a little, what's it called, nano tube in there as well. Gets me a great guitar tone, and that to me is what matters. I don't care how it's achieved. I don't have, any sort of zealotry against one side or the other in the way that some people do, but the debate rages on, I suppose. Next.
Technique versus feel.
Yeah, technique versus feel. It's interesting, this, because when people talk about feel, what they usually mean is, when they're referring to a particular guitar player who has great feel, what they usually mean is that that person's music or that player's music is just appealing to them. It speaks to them. It gives them that sort of that fizz, that shiver down the spine that good music should. And that is a very, very subjective individual thing. For instance, I love early Dire Straits playing. I'm not such a fan of everything that Mark Knopfler did after Brothers in Arms, really, but the eponymous first Dire Straits album, Communique, a little bit weak, but still a pretty strong album. Making Movies, Love Over Gold, and the Alchemy live album. I just love those, especially Alchemy. And I listened to that, and that album especially, and just the feel that Mark Knopfler, to my ears, displays on that is on that whole album is astounding. Yet I have heard more than one person say how Mark Knopfler's playing is clinical and cold and leaves them just feeling, completely uninterested. So it's a subjective thing. And I can name, I think we can all name plenty of, kind of astonishingly kind of technical, fast guitar players who just don't really kind of give me the impression that there's much feel going on. And I can also name, and I'm not going to, because again, we're talking about things that that guitar players love to bicker about, so I'm not going to shovel coal onto that fire. But I can also name plenty of players who kind of have a laid-back, slow, kind of less shreddy approach, shall we say, and their playing, which other people will say is full of feel, to me, leaves me cold. So it's a subjective thing, and I think the sooner we realise that one man's meat is another man's poison, to coin a phrase, that we can put this one to bed. But as ever, the debate and the argument and the bickering will rage on, I suppose. Next.
Music theory.
Yeah, music theory. Now, I very definitely am a strong defender of knowing music theory. All of the people, it seems to me, who are its detractors, have just basically got the wrong end of the stick. It's a case of, well, theory is rules, and rules is restrictions, and restrictions will kind of stop me playing what I want to play. Absolute hogwash. I think it was Adam Neely who said that music theory is not prescriptive, it's descriptive. It's just a question of cataloguing what works and how you can learn from that, and so that you don't have to rely on random chance and happy accidents to come up with something that sounds good. There's no such thing as rules in music. Let's put that one to bed straight away. There are kind of things that you can observe. Well, if you play that note over that chord, it'll sound absolutely nasty and angry and dissonant and very, very unpleasant. But what happens if at that particular point in the piece of music that you're playing or improvising or composing, what happens if the emotion you want to convey is nasty and angry and dissonant and unpleasant? That is, music is an expression of the human condition, and nasty and unpleasant and angry and dissonant are facets of that, and that has a place in music. It's not a case of you can't do that. It's a case of, well, if you do that, it's going to sound like this, and if you know basically how something is going to sound, that makes you surely a more what would we call it, fluent, or you have a better vocabulary, or shall we say, of musical ideas. I had a hobby that was about 20 years ago, and is now, dear me, I decided I wanted a hobby that wasn't music related, and I took up a little bit of landscape painting in watercolours, because that looks easy. It isn't. And yeah, it was, the theory is what you live by, and that, like, knowing if you mix that blue with that yellow, you'll get this green, and so on. So just knowing how wet the brush needs to be, knowing how wet the paper needs to be, and kind of learning all that theory associated with that particular pursuit, you'd be hard pressed to manage anything without it. And the other thing is, I'll finish up on music theory here, that most people who, kind of the detractors of music theory, if you kind of probe them a little bit and say, well, how do you know what to do there then? And are you just relying on guesswork? Is it just, oh no, well, I know that if I do this, then that's going to fit there. Aha! You're using theory. You may not know the textbook terms, but you are still displaying an understanding of what you're doing. And that's all music theory is. And I've said my piece now. Argue with me in the comments if you want, but that's my opinion, and I ain't changing it. Next.
Tonewood.
Yeah, I thought I'd save this one for last, because it is the biggie, isn't it? There's, on one end of the spectrum, you've got people who'll say that mahogany sounds like this, swamp ash sounds like that, ash sounds a little bit different, and poplar sounds like this, and maple, yada, yada, yada. And they've got this this like periodic table of what all of the different, tone woods sound like. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you'll get people who say that, it doesn't matter whether you make a guitar out of, kiln-dried 40-year-old mahogany or MDF. It's going to sound the same. And this is one I'm a bit agnostic on. I can see arguments from both sides, really. The one thing that I would say is that a Gibson Les Paul and a Gibson ES335, identical scale length, and electronics and everything that matters, in terms of the electrical circuit that is that is being created when you make an electric guitar. Those two guitars should sound identical, and they do sound very similar, but not identical. So something's going on there. One guitar is made from solid timber, and the other guitar is made from timber and a big lump of fresh air. So I don't know. How does that feed into the equation? But all of this sort of stuff about this particular species of wood has this particular tone, I think is for the birds, frankly. It's, again, going back to the digital versus analog thing, I don't care. I genuinely don't care. It's like, do I like the sound that this instrument is creating? And if so, then I'm going to enjoy playing that guitar. I think, some electric guitars are acoustically more resonant than others. That is undeniably a fact. But whether that translates into the amplified sound of the guitar is, well, we can again argue about that till the cows come home. But what I will say personally, and it's just a personal thing for me, if an electric guitar is acoustically more resonant, then I find it a more enjoyable guitar to play, and that affects how I play it, and that will have some knock-on effect. If you're playing with more enthusiasm and gusto, then surely that's going to have an impact on the amplified tone. you know, and as I say, a more acoustically resonant electric guitar will affect how I play, and in a positive way, I think. So maybe that's where the you know, the kind of the heart of the matter, the kernel of truth in the tonewood debate lies. Anyway, folks, there you go. Those are just 5 little topics, 5 little subjects that I've observed that guitar players absolutely love to bicker about. Let me know in the comments where you stand on any of these, or if there's any other subject that you've noticed that guitar players love to have a bit of verbal fisticuffs about. Then, as I say, down in the comments is where to leave any thoughts of that nature. But that is the video for today, folks. Hope you found it entertaining in some small way, and if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget the live stream every Friday, 5 PM UK time. We drink beer and talk about stuff in a civilised fashion, I hope. It's music, guitars, whatever crops up. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.